The Galactic Council had disarmed 1,000 worlds, brought empires to their knees, and crushed rebellions with the stroke of a gavel. So when Earth, primitive, war-obsessed Earth, warned them not to step foot near its skies, they laughed. Loudly. But they stopped laughing when their fleets never came back. They stopped laughing when their admirals begged for extraction. And by the time they saw what Earth was really hiding, it was far, far too late. They called it a formality, a courtesy extended to the young species, before the Galactic Council passed judgment. But Captain Elias Vorn knew better. He stood at the center of the council chamber, hands behind his back, eyes scanning the alien delegates with the cold patience of a man who had lived through more wars than peace. 72 species sat in gleaming thrones. The ceiling shimmered with a holographic model of Earth, rotating slowly like a museum exhibit. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Clicks, hums, guttural drones, the sound of 1,000 dismissals wrapped in politeness. Ambassador Vorn, came the oily voice of Supreme Mediator Zelvath, his triple-jointed limbs folded neatly. The Council appreciates your attendance. You've been granted 5 minutes to defend your world's refusal to submit to orbital disarmament. Elias didn't move. I won't be needing 5. Laughter erupted. Some genuine, most condescending. A crystalline entity rippled in amusement. A slug-shaped delegate sprayed mucus on its translator pod. Elias stepped forward. His coat was decades out of date, military issue, worn thin at the seams. His left eye, an old solar lens, glinted gold in the lights. The silence that followed was not respect, but indulgence. Let the humans speak, they thought. Let him bark. Then we'll clean up his planet like we did with the rest. You want Earth to disarm, he began, his voice flat, clear. You think our weapons are too dangerous, that we're too emotionally unstable to hold the stick. Maybe you're right. Maybe we are unstable. Maybe we are dangerous. He paused, letting the quiet press. But let me tell you something you seem to have forgotten. We warned you. He reached into his coat and pulled out a worn piece of folded paper. Not a date pad. Not a projection. Just ink on paper. He unfolded it slowly and read aloud. If unauthorized vessels breach Earth's exclusion line without formal clearance, Terran planetary defenses will activate. Escalation will be automatic, irreversible, and total. This is not a threat. This is a certainty. Gasps. A few delegates exchanged worried glances. But the majority still sneered. Council Protocol 9-17, Zelvath said, waving a limb dismissively, clearly grants inspection rights to any signatory species suspected of harboring forbidden technology. Earth signed that treaty. And you ignored our override clause, Elias replied, his tone sharpening. Clause 14. Exclusion protocols supersede interstellar inspection rights if sovereignty is threatened. We put it in plain language. You just didn't think we'd have the backbone to use it. A thick-set war general from the Avani Confederacy grunted. Your people barely qualify as a space-faring race. Your fleets are primitive. Your AI infrastructure is 2 centuries behind. We see your bluff. And we're calling it. Elias didn't blink. Then may whatever gods you believe in help you when your ships reach orbit. Silence now. Real silence. Zelvath clicked his mandibles together. You would threaten the entire council over pride? Elias chuckled once. No humor in it. You misunderstand. Earth doesn't threaten. We defend. We've been doing it longer than your council has existed. A few seats away, a Lorian archivist blinked her 3 eyes. Your records say Earth has been peaceful for over 300 years. That's what we let you see, he said. A wave of unease passed through the chamber. You want to send ships? Send them. You want to scan us? Try it. But when they don't return, and you ask why, remember this moment. Remember the warning. Zelvath leaned forward, his voice hardening. This council has disarmed species 10 times your strength. Are you under the delusion that Earth, a single gravity well with nostalgic tendencies, poses a real threat to the order we've built? Elias stepped forward, closer than etiquette allowed. His voice dropped. No delusion. Just math. You see, we didn't build weapons to fight you. We built them to outlast you. Every treaty you signed to disarm, we signed and then buried a deeper vault. Every species that trusted you handed over their fangs. We just smiled and lied better. The room boiled with whispers now. And why? Zelvath spat. Why build all this in the dark? Elias held his gaze. Because we remember what it means to be prey. He turned without dismissal, walked back to the center of the chamber, and folded the paper again, tucking it into his coat. The lights above flickered. Perhaps coincidence. Perhaps not. You'll send your fleet. You'll watch it disappear. And if you survive that, maybe then you'll start listening. A counselor from the Hyderi Alliance rose, a rare act of support. Captain Vorn, do you speak for your people with authorization? Elias gave a crooked smile. I was authorized the moment I walked into this room. But I'm not here to beg for understanding. I'm here so you can't say you weren't warned. He paused at the exit. Oh. And one more thing. The chamber quieted again. When the first of your ships vanish, and panic spreads across your sectors, and someone asks how did this happen, tell them the humans tried to warn us. We just wouldn't shut up and listen. Then he walked out. Back in his shuttle, orbiting above Velner Prime, Elias keyed a private channel to Earth. His hand hovered over a single control. Red. Unlabeled. Ancient. He pressed it. No fanfare. No alarm. Just one quiet activation of Protocol Hollow Sky. Below, the Council resumed their laughter. They had no idea. Not yet. But they would. The Council fleet entered Sol space with ceremonial precision. 12 dreadnoughts, gleaming with arrogance and armed to the core, slowed as they approached the boundary Earth had so clearly defined, the lunar exclusion line. A red ribbon drawn in vacuum, backed by silence and a threat that made diplomats chuckle over wine. Commander Tilk of the Varn Dominion led the formation. He'd petitioned to oversee this operation, not because he feared Earth, but because he didn't. The reports were ridiculous: kinetic projectiles, AI-directed orbital mines, planetary stealth barriers. Antiquated myths. Earth was just dramatic. Begin passive scans, Tilk ordered. Let's find out what they're hiding under all that radio silence. His second-in-command, a cautious Mriani tactician, hesitated. They warned us, sir. Not metaphorically. Literally. That no signals meant the guns were warming. Tilk scoffed. And if we retreat, we confirm their posturing works. The Council does not bow to bark. 6 stealth drones slipped past the exclusion line first, scanning wavelengths, particle fields, and atmospheric densities. They detected nothing unusual. No power signatures. No EM anomalies. No active weapons. But they also didn't come back. Not because they were shot down. Because telemetry simply stopped. As if someone had flipped the universe off around them. Tilk frowned. Send forward patrol formation Theta 9. Drones may have malfunctioned. 4 smaller cruisers broke formation and crossed the line, maintaining full sensor broadcast. The Council delegates, observing the mission in real time from the command nexus, watched with mild amusement. On screen, Theta 9's formation held for 9 seconds. Then the feeds cut. Not to static. Not to black. Just gone. Across the bridge, operators scrambled. No distress signals. No debris fields. No particle wake. It's like they were deleted. Tilk's brow twitched. Relay and alert. All ships, full combat posture. They didn't get the chance. Something blinked into reality just above the moon, too fast for scanners, too quiet for traditional mass detection. A structure, no larger than a corvette, unfolded like a metallic flower. Then it pulsed. All 12 dreadnoughts instantly lost primary navigation. Inertial systems spun out of control. Hull temperatures spiked. Internal gravity distorted. Where's that pulse coming from? Tilk shouted, voice rising above the chaos. No one answered. Outside, the moon shifted again. Or rather, part of it opened, unveiling an array of cylindrical launch tubes too deep for visible light to reach the bottom. Earth's silence finally broke. A single message appeared on every ship's comm screen. You crossed the line. Then the sky fell. Thousands of rods, unpowered, unshielded, dumb by Council standards, began their descent. Solid tungsten, 20 meters long, descending at terminal velocity, guided by predictive AIs that had studied every recorded maneuver in alien military history. The Council's first dreadnought took a direct hit across its spinal fusion core. No explosion. Just a sudden, catastrophic end to structure. The ship folded inward like wet paper, then vented fire and silence. 2 more rods hit the next vessel in sequence before it even began evasive movement. Its engine ruptured. Crew compartments depressurized. A silent scream bloomed in the void as bodies tumbled through fractured bulkheads. Tilk screamed orders. Shields flared. Point defense batteries lit up space in a wild fury, trying to catch weapons that weren't electronic, weren't powered, weren't even broadcasting threat signals. They were just falling. Fast. Brutal. Real. A rod punched through the bridge of the 4th dreadnought, traveling straight down its length. The ship split along the line of impact. Its 2 halves drifted apart in slow, silent agony. The other ships fired up warp drives. Retreat. Retreat. But the drives stuttered. Something had locked them in system. A quiet override command pinged every system at once. You are inside the vault. There is no exit protocol. Council members watching from afar began shouting over each other. The Hyderi delegate fainted. The Rixari trembled, losing color in his gelatinous skin. Someone whispered. They weren't bluffing. A final barrage of rods dropped. Tilk's ship took one through the reactor well. For a brief moment, everything turned white. Then black. On Earth, no celebration. No announcement. The Terran defense grid registered 98% target elimination. One ship managed to crawl to the edge of the system, its engines sputtering, half of its crew dead from inertia shocks. The Council received a broadcast from the last remaining vessel. The commander's voice was hollow, broken. Do not send more. Do not even scan them again. They knew exactly what we'd do. We were already dead before we launched. Above Earth, silence again. A single pulse fired from the lunar array. Not a weapon. A transmission. It played across the Council's diplomatic frequency, open and untranslated. It was a human voice. Captain Elias Vorn. Calm. Dry. Tired. We warned you. This wasn't defense. This was memory. You asked what we were hiding. You assumed it was weapons. But it was something far worse. He paused. We were hiding the fact that we never forgot what you're capable of. The transmission ended. In the Council chamber, no one laughed. No one spoke. The threat was not Earth's technology. It was Earth's resolve. Its patience. Its precision. Its terrifying ability to do nothing until the very last moment. They'd stared into the abyss of a species that knew how to survive by any means, and built its future not on peace, but on preparation. And in the silence that followed, many in the chamber felt something they hadn't in millennia. Fear. The wreckage of the Council fleet drifted like frozen confetti over Earth's upper orbit. Twisted hulls, silent engines, shattered honor. What was meant to be a demonstration of galactic authority had become a tomb suspended above a quiet blue world. The only surviving vessel limped through the darkness, its communications jammed, its propulsion sporadic. It sent no threats, no calls for backup, only one desperate, looping transmission. They were waiting. In the deepest levels of the Galactic Council citadel, panic now wore the robes of diplomacy. Delegates barked over one another, proposing sanctions, retaliation, immediate war. But none of them noticed when Elias Vorn's holographic signal reappeared in the center of the chamber. He didn't say a word at first. He didn't need to. They quieted. The last time Earth fought a war beyond its borders, Vorn began. We were told to surrender or be erased. You were too young to remember. Your species had barely evolved fire. We stood alone and we survived it. Not because we were stronger. Because we were willing. One delegate dared interrupt. We are the law. You cannot be allowed to. Vorn cut him off with a glance. Not rage. Not pride. Pity. You still think this is about law. You sent warships to enforce your peace. You crossed the line and expected us to thank you for the intrusion. Now you want to escalate, because it's easier than admitting you underestimated something you don't understand. Zelvath leaned forward, trembling not from fear but fury. What we don't understand is how you think this ends well. Earth will be isolated. Trade, communication, protection, gone. You will be alone. Vorn nodded slowly. We were always alone. That's why we prepared. He stepped forward, hands behind his back, voice steady. What you saw was not our offensive capacity. It was our restraint. You came armed. We didn't strike until fired upon. We warned you. You laughed. You moved your fleets. And now your fleets are gone. Another delegate slammed a clawed hand on the console. Then show us your power. If Earth is so mighty, make you move. Prove your supremacy. Vorn smiled. Not smugly. Quietly. Like a teacher tired of repeating the same lesson. You don't get it. Earth doesn't conquer. Earth endures. We don't strike first. We just make sure no one ever strikes us twice. He held up a small device, barely the size of a coin. The chamber's security tried to override the signal, but it was already too late. A real-time transmission filled the dome overhead. Dozens of alien species looked up in confusion as the screen unfolded Earth's surface in brilliant detail. It showed every continent, every ocean, pulsing slowly in a synchronized heartbeat. Then, layered beneath the crust, networks appeared, thermal clusters, pressure arrays, satellite shadows, deep-sea obelisks. None of them broadcast signals. None of them moved. But they were alive. They were waiting. This is not a threat, Vorn said. This is not retaliation. This is simply us opening the door a little wider, so you can see what lies behind it. Zelvath hissed. You would expose your defenses to your enemies? Vorn gave him a tired look. You think you're our enemy now? That's adorable. He tapped the device again. The image changed. It zoomed out. The moon rotated slightly. Then again. Then more. A pattern emerged, not natural. Artificial. In full view now, the lunar surface revealed an array of hatches, evenly spaced like a mechanical ribcage. Massive, silent, each one housing something larger than any ship Earth had ever admitted to possessing. One of the Council's tactical AI systems went dark. It couldn't process the image. The scale broke its predictive logic. Panic spread through the hall like a wave of radiation. This ends, Vorn said, voice now colder, heavier. When you decide it ends. We didn't start this. But we'll be the ones left standing when the dust clears. That's not a warning. It's history, written in advance. Another voice crackled through the feed. Not Vorn's. A different human. You invaded sovereign space. You lost your fleet. Earth will not pursue. But any attempt to retaliate will be considered a declaration of total war. You have 72 hours to withdraw your remaining probes and issue formal apologies. Or we show you the full meaning of containment. The feed cut. Silence returned to the chamber. A delegate in the back stood, hands trembling. Do we believe them? Vorn looked directly at her, even though his hologram shouldn't have been able to track individual voices. Ask your admirals. Ask the ones who haven't stopped crying since the feed came in. Ask the ship you sent, the ones still drifting near Neptune. If their screams haven't convinced you, then nothing will. And then he was gone. The hologram faded. No final threat. No demand. Just silence. Which, for Earth, had always been the loudest message. On the edge of the solar system, the surviving ship finally powered down. Not by choice, by protocol. It had tried to flee. It had failed. Earth let it go not as a gift, but as a message carrier. Back in Council space, 2 species resigned their military chairs within the hour. 3 others filed emergency petitions to revoke participation in any retaliatory strike. Zelvath remained. He didn't speak. Not that day. Not for many days after. No one asked why. They already knew. No distress signals came from Earth. No surrender. No diplomatic reply. Just silence, sharp as a blade and heavier than truth. The council chamber, once a theater of certainty, now echoed with hesitation. And then, without fanfare or warning, Earth took the war to them. It began with anomalies. Tiny warps along council trade lanes, unregistered flashes near deep space relays, sudden blackouts across orbital supply chains. Ships vanished without alarms. Beacons went dark. Communication severed in mid-transmission. All investigations returned a single result, inconclusive. Then one of the Council's long-range outposts detected a signal too precise to be coincidence. It was human. Coordinates. No explanation. No words. Just numbers burned into the void. The Council, still aching from its last humiliation, believed it a trap. But someone had to respond. They deployed a fleet of fast interceptors, minimal crew, layered scans. Nothing returned. Until something did. A fragment of hull. Burned. Twisted. Etched with 7 words in Terran Standard. "We told you not to come." Council command froze all movement into Terran space. Surveillance probes were rerouted. War simulations began. But Earth had already moved past defense. They weren't sending ships. They were sending men. The first strike hit the orbital shipyard above Cyrellin Prime, one of the most fortified Council installations. The official report claimed it was an internal explosion. But the black box logs captured the truth. A single figure entered through a vacuum breach port, wearing no powered suit, no identification, only black armor that pulsed with internal kinetic dampeners. Within 11 minutes, the shipyard was dark. Its reactors were cooling. Its security systems had been overridden by protocols written in dead Terran coding languages. One guard who survived, half-blind from a flash grenade, described the attacker with trembling breath. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He moved like gravity answered to him. The Council dismissed it as exaggeration. Until it happened again. And again. Simultaneous strikes across 3 sectors, dozens dead, installations crippled, and always the same signature, surgical, brutal, silent. They weren't ships. They weren't fleets. They were gravediggers. Earth's black project, long-thought myth. Cryoborn soldiers, modified not just for endurance but for singular focus. Trained in silence. Released only when diplomacy failed. And diplomacy had died. Each gravedigger operated alone, without orders once deployed. They were ghosts. But they didn't kill indiscriminately. Only military targets. Only installations with weapons that could one day turn toward Earth. They never took trophies. They left warnings. Each strike concluded with a message carved, scorched, or embedded in code. Never again be prey. The Council's response was predictable, full mobilization. All sectors were put on alert. Patrols doubled. Strategic outposts reinforced. A defensive perimeter was proposed, discussed, voted on, and vetoed. Too expensive. Too reactionary. Too late. The gravediggers weren't waiting. The Hyderi Fleet Command Base, located on a hollow asteroid, was the next target. 37 soldiers stationed there, all armed, all veterans. The feed lasted 42 seconds. By the end, only one man remained alive. He was Terran. The Council debated retaliation, but with what? They couldn't find the entry points. They couldn't predict the strikes. Earth wasn't declaring war. It was dismantling the possibility of war. One facility at a time. Elias Vorn addressed the Council again, not through official channels, but as a hijacked stream into their secure diplomatic feed. No preamble. No emotion. Just, You sent ships. We answered with silence. You tried force. We answered with restraint. Then you crossed a line you didn't even bother to map. You thought the surface of Earth was the whole of Earth. That our peace was weakness. That our warnings were bluff. You forgot who you were talking to. His image vanished. No threats. No ultimatums. That was the threat. That was the ultimatum. Within a week, 12 major council installations were out of commission. No mass casualties. No planetary invasions. Just precise cuts to the spine of their war machine. And the message was always the same. We don't seek control. We seek safety. Cross that, and we remove the option to harm us again. Eventually, some in the council began to understand. They proposed dialogue. Treaties rewritten with respect. Recognition of Earth's autonomy. But others clung to their pride, whispering vengeance. A desperate move was made. The Zarn Dominion offered a bounty for the capture of a gravedigger. They sent elite assassins to intercept what they believed was a human operative en route to a strike. They found him. And then he found them. Their command ship was recovered a week later, floating near a dead star. No crew. No damage. Inside the bridge was a single human skull, unmarked, perfectly clean, resting on the command chair. There was no blood. There was a message burned into the steel below it. You escalated. Now we educate. That was the final act before silence fell again. Not Earth's silence. The Council's. Trade resumed. Probes were recalled. No further inspections were proposed. Not a word of apology was issued, but nothing else was sent either. And then Earth spoke one final time. A broadcast. To all sectors. A voice not Vorn's. Younger. Calm. Tired. This was not war. This was a reminder. We are not your enemy. But we are no one's prey. Leave us in peace, and we will never raise our hands again. Threaten us, and we will ensure you never have the chance to try twice. Remember that. Remember this lesson. Then it ended. No demands. No conquest. Just silence. The kind that makes you listen. They waited for retaliation that never came. Days passed. Then weeks. Earth made no further moves. The Council expected fleets, ultimatums, demands for territory or tribute. None came. Surveillance teams sent to monitor Terran broadcasts found nothing but silence. Not absence, intentional silence. No celebration. No propaganda. Earth had done what it came to do, then vanished from the conversation. Council delegates assembled in emergency session. Each member came armed with fear but cloaked it in policy. The Hyderi proposed economic sanctions. The Zarn demanded reparations for the destroyed installations. The Rixari insisted on full reclassification of Earth as a Level 7 military threat, which would legally justify preemptive planetary disarmament. No one dared vote on it. Zelvath sat at the center of the chamber, quiet for once. The usual arrogance in his posture had drained away. He no longer used the word primitive. He no longer mocked Earth's culture. His eyes, once dismissive, now carried the weight of someone who had witnessed something outside comprehension. When the diplomatic feed opened again, no one gasped. They expected it. Earth never asked for permission to speak. Vorn appeared, standing in a simple room, stone walls, soft shadows. No weapons. No flags. Just a man. I don't expect you to understand, he said calmly. Not really. You've had peace for so long, you've forgotten what desperation feels like. You've forgotten that peace isn't the absence of threat, it's the mastery of it. A delegate tried to interject. Vorn didn't pause. Earth isn't proud of what we did. We're not ashamed of it either. We did what we had to. Not to conquer. Not to intimidate. Just to exist without a blade at our throat. He stepped forward, hands clasped. We didn't dismantle your stations to send a message. We did it to remove the temptation. You built weapons that could erase cities in minutes. And you aimed them at a species whose only request was to be left alone. Another voice entered the chamber, female, calm, measured. You labeled us unstable because we prepare for the worst. You called us dangerous because we never disarmed. You looked at our fear and mistook it for aggression. But we were never trying to impress you. We were trying to survive you. Images appeared overhead. Not destruction. Not weapon systems. People. Families. Children in subterranean classrooms. Engineers welding in zero-G. Farmers tending protein crops under orbital panels. The real Earth. You thought we were hiding an army. The voice continued. We were hiding the cost. Every defense we built came at the price of something else, art, trust, time. We didn't become strong to rule. We became strong because no one else would bleed for us. The screen flickered. It showed the aftermath of the First Contact War, long buried in Council records. Ships falling into oceans. Earth's orbital ring collapsing. Civilians burning as alien bombardments tore through cities. Council insignias on the wreckage. Zelvath stood slowly. That war was never sanctioned. Vorn looked at him. We know. And yet the fire came anyway. So we prepared to make sure it never came again. And when it did, this time not with fire, but with arrogance, we treated it the same way. The screen cut to black. Protocol Hollow Sky, said Vorn. A system we hoped we'd never use. A system built to respond exactly as it did. Without emotion. Without cruelty. Just precision. Delegates sat still. Some trembled. No one interrupted now. You've seen what Earth can do when pushed. What you haven't seen is what happens when we're understood. When treated with respect. When spoken to as equals. That door is still open. We haven't closed it. He exhaled. The weight of centuries in his chest. We don't need allies who fear us. And we won't bow to those who would only call us civil when we're silent. You wanted a demonstration. You got one. What comes next is up to you. The feed ended. No vote followed. No rebuttal. The chamber emptied slowly. Conversations whispered in fear, in awe, in reconsideration. War had not been declared. And yet, no one would test Earth again. In the following weeks, Council probes left Terran space. Economic blockades were abandoned before they began. Several members submitted requests to re-establish peaceful communication with Earth. None received a reply. Earth had made its choice clear. The lesson was done. Some called it deterrence. Others called it quiet dominance. But those who understood best simply called it balance. On Earth, the sky was clear again. The Aegis vault slept. The gravediggers returned to cryo. The world turned without ceremony. No monuments were built. No broadcasts boasted of victory. The children studied. The farmers planted. The scientists dreamed. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy learned something it had forgotten. The most dangerous species are not those who shout loudest or strike first. They are the ones who warn you once, and never need to again.